So picking the most beautiful country in the world is, needless to say, a very subjective opinion. My experience is going to be different than what yours is. And that's why in this video, I wanted to try to be as objective as I could by making a scoring system. There's two criteria that I'm looking at. The first one is out of 10 points, and that is just raw beauty. And that can be anywhere within the country. The other criteria that I have is only out of 5. It is in comparison to all of the country, proportionally how beautiful it is. A good example of that is the United States. There are many beautiful places in the United States, but there's also many areas that are just flat, deserty, the Great Plains, half of Texas, not the most beautiful places in the world. So when we look at it by a proportional standard, it averages out to a 3. And that's how I'm going to be ranking these following countries on how beautiful they are. One with just raw beauty, and the next with how proportionally throughout the country it is beautiful. So let's get right to it, to number 5. Speaking of which, at number 5 we have the United States of America with a beauty score of 8 and, like I said before, a proportionality score of 3. So, full disclosure before I start on the United States. I originally had Austria as my number 5, but 2 things I realized. The first thing is I actually don't have any pictures of Austria. I don't have any pictures. But it's because of the second reason. And the second reason is because I really wasn't in Austria for a long enough time to gather enough sites and pictures to be able to judge it fairly. And once I realized that, I took Austria out. And that's what happened with a lot of other countries as well, being Canada, Bosnia, and actually Italy being the only country that gave a 10 out of 10 for raw beauty. And not all of Italy, just the Dolomites, that area. But same thing with Austria. Italy, it was Dolomites and Venice for me, and that's it. So even though it does have a 10 out of 10 for raw beauty, I don't feel like I can judge it fairly to say it's the most beautiful country in the world. But that's not on this list. Let's get back into the United States. So I already talked about why the United States is a 3 in its proportionality. So I want to focus a little bit more on its raw beauty and why it's an 8. The first thing that pops into mind is Zion National Park, and that is in southern Utah. That area, southern Utah and northern Arizona, that's also where the Grand Canyon is. It's so wonderful to look at. It has this rock that is like a sunstone kind of color. And with Zion National Park, it has it's like a huge ravine that's very wide that you can hike through. And a lot of its hikes, you're hiking up the side of the ravine. And one of its most famous hikes, Angel's Landing, which I did not get to go on. Besides that, it has Angel's Landing, which is a ridge that goes between and across the ravine that is Zion National Park. Other places in the United States is Colorado. Colorado for Americans is a place, at least for Texans, where we go to go vacation. When you get into Denver, Denver's kind of like a flat area, but it's kind of like in a bowl, and around Denver is the mountains. So you see the mountains on the outskirts. And then it has interesting rock formations as well. And then, of course, mountains like Pikes Peak gets you very high to the point that you're just looking out into all of almost seems like all of Colorado. However, one reason why I didn't put the United States as a 9 is that it's not awe-inspiring or jaw-dropping or stunning, but whenever I look at number 9s, the countries that I gave number 9s to on this list, I found a trend that these are countries that reformed and reshaped how I think about beauty in a natural landscape. It is the formation of my idea of what beauty is in nature. And it is that formation of my own definition of beauty that these countries on the list that get a number 9 have achieved. Zion is so close to doing that, but just not there. There's another country that is on the honorable mentions that does similar landscapes as Zion National Park. So because of that, even though I'd 100% go back to Zion National Park, it's just not the best of the best, as we will see coming up. At number 4, we have Croatia with a beauty score of 9 and a proportionality score of 3. I can't tell you how beautiful it was to take the bus ride from Dubrovnik on the southernmost tip of Croatia to Split. Look at what are y'all doing? Get out of here! Lo siento. As I was saying, and whenever you're driving through Croatia, you're driving through on the side of mountains, but these mountains are the coastline. So you're driving on mountainous coastline while you're looking out on islands that are pebbled across the sea. But these islands are also mountainous and hilly as well. So whenever you're driving through, it's like you're just under this immensity and weight of the earth, alongside this coastline of beaches and rocky beaches, where the contrast of elevations and the water with the greenery that is along these mountains just gives it's just quite amazing. And that's why it gets a 9 for me. But why it only gets a 3 or proportionality is I flew from Zagreb, and Zagreb, it's nothing to drive home about, and that's a good chunk of Croatia. Croatia is actually not as big as I thought it was. Most of what Croatia is coastline. It's just really small sliver going along the Adriatic Sea, I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'll put a little description if I'm wrong. So that's why Croatia is not higher on the list, is pretty much because of its proportionality. At number 3, just edging past Croatia, is Slovenia with a beauty score of 9 and a proportionality score of 4. So right off the bat, the reason why it's a 9 for beauty standards is pretty much because of Triglav National Park. This national park is on the northwest side of Slovenia, and it is the end of the Appalachian Mountains. And my goodness, it's just so tranquil and just immense, grandiose. Some of the hostels that you get to stay at right outside of the national park is embedded inside of a valley, and right when you walk out, it's just the mountains are all around you. And then whenever you're going through Triglav National Park, the actual national park, you go through where they created a pass to get through the Appalachian Mountains. So you climb up, and you're looking back, and the mountains are just piercing the earth behind you. And then you go through into this smaller our man-made valley, and then that opens up into more of the mountain range. It's just mind-blowing. It's amazing, and that's why it's a 9. One reason why I gave Slovenia the edge over Croatia in proportionality is mainly because I never felt while I was going through Slovenia that I didn't want to look outside my window. Even though it's not Triglav National Park or Lake Bled all throughout Slovenia, it still has these rolling grass hills that go through most of the country. And then on the northeast side, you hit back into the Appalachian Mountains, which are just as immense. If you're driving through it, it just feels like you're going through a tranquil green sea. And there's a subtle beauty into that. I might have some bias into it because I actually modeled here in Slovenia, in South Slovenia. So I have a little bit of a bias to it, I think. But also, it's even while I was driving through the rest of Slovenia, it just never felt like there was a moment where I was like, okay, I'm bored. I wish I could be reading my book right now. And that's why Slovenia is number 3 for me. And at number 2, we have a lot of people's favorite, Japan, with a beauty score of 8 and a proportionality score of 5. So, personally, I wish Japan wasn't this high on this list. Not because I don't like it or I don't love it. Why I didn't want it this high because a lot of people just talk about Japan like it's your mother's cookies she made in the morning and you just had them and they're just melting in your mouth and it's just ecstatic and nothing could be wrong with it because it's your grandma's cookies. It's like, no, there's things that Japan can definitely work on. But I can't lie, it's just, landscape-wise, mind-boggling. It's just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling because, not necessarily because of its beauty factor. Yes, there are very beautiful places like Mount Fuji and Mount Aso, and then just driving through, you'll find beautiful places. But what Japan has that is just so special about it is its proportionality. You take the bullet train anywhere, don't bring a book, just look outside. It's like Croatia if it just had the coastline. Of course, not as immense. Anywhere you go, I was in Kyushu, I went up from Fukuoka to go all the way to Kyoto, and all of that, I just wanted to look outside the whole time. The only time I didn't feel like that is when I flew from Fukuoka to Tokyo, and it's a lot of flat land over there. And I was like, okay, I guess as some parts aren't as just stunning as, and then I hit Tokyo, which utilizes this flatland to such a effective degree because it just spreads itself out for miles and miles and miles. But I'm assuming the rest of this area is just, and then no, you get out of Tokyo and you hit Mount Fuji area, and my goodness, Mount Fuji area is just as beautiful as the south side. It's just a continuation. So it's just so mind-boggling how consistent this can be with being such a big country. Well, not US or Argentina side, but when we're talking about these beautiful countries, it's bigger than Slovenia, it's bigger than Croatia, it's bigger than our number 1 spot. And yet, it's so consistent on its landscape. And I think that's why it edged out in front of Slovenia for the number 2 spots. So starting off with our honorable mentions, we have 2. The first one is Argentina with a beauty score of 8 and a proportionality score of 2. So right off the bat, I have to say that Argentina is a huge country, and a lot of the places I heard about that have beautiful landscapes like Iguazu Falls and Patagonia are places I just didn't go. I just didn't set aside time to go see these places. But where I mostly saw was the northern part of Argentina, and that is places like Jujuy, and then the salt fields in Salta. But needless to say, these are very beautiful areas too. You have the mountains of the Andes that start off with green forests pretty much all across these mountains, that then slowly, as it goes more north and north, it gets more of like that sunshine stone I was talking about with America, where it's this yellow and red and these mixes of oranges into the mountaintops. And it's this slow progression all the way up until you get to Bolivia that kind of gives it its majesticness of it. Just like the United States, I don't think it's enough to put it at a 9, but still beautiful places I'd go back to. And also, it just, when you're taking a bus from Jujuy and Salta to Cordoba to Buenos Aires, it's just farmland, and I was kind of excited to go on this bus ride to go through Argentina. Then it's just, I'm not seeing anything. I'm just seeing land for miles and miles and miles, which is its own kind of majesticness to it, but just not very beautiful, or how we would categorize beauty, right? But hopefully when I revisit Argentina and see Iguazu Falls and see Patagonia and more of the Andes Mountains where Mendoza is, maybe my perception of Argentina and also scores of Argentina will change, but not today. And for a second honorable mention, we have South Korea with a beauty score of 7 and a proportionality score of a 4. This is kind of the country that I wanted to be higher on this list than Japan, because no one really talks about South Korea and its landscaping specifically. It's like these just rolling hills, constant throughout the whole country. And whenever you take a train ride, you're just weaving around these valleys, these mountainous valleys. And it's just so pleasing. But it doesn't really have any like single landscape or a national park or an area that just pops out at you, like Zion National Park, like Mount Fuji or the Dolomites in Italy. It just doesn't have anything like that. It's just nice and beautiful. It's nice just to go around through the country and see the countryside. So that's why it's a 7 in beauty, but a proportionality of 4. There are some places in South Korea that are just kind of flat, but the majority of it is very beautiful, all with its rolling, almost like a rolling sea of green, I would describe it. But, as you guys have been waiting for, let's go to our number 1 pick. And for our number 1 spot of the most beautiful countries in the world, it goes to none other than Switzerland, with a beauty score of 9 and a proportionality score of 5. Yes, it is so cliche, just like Japan. Just so cliche that number 1 of the most beautiful countries in the world would be Switzerland. But it's when you go into Switzerland, it's in the middle of the Alps. So all of Switzerland is just nestled into the Alps. And especially where we are staying, Interlaken, which is apparently a very touristy area. Me as an American didn't really know that, but who cares? We actually got above the clouds, so we were looking at all of the mountains that were just striking through the puffs of clouds. It's almost like the clouds were kind of another sea underneath it. I step out of the gas station and I just have to look around for a minute and be like, wow, where am I right now? I thought I was in a gas station. The gas stations in Texas are just kind of like, okay, I go in, I come out, I do my thing. But when you do it in Switzerland, you gotta settle down and just look and appreciate it. Even at night, it's pitch black outside, and I can see the outlines of the mountains in, I think, a little bit over a quarter moon. I think that's what it was. And I could see, I could see the lakes glistening at night underneath these mountains. And I've never had an experience like that where I'm okay driving at night because I want to see more of this landscape. It's never happened to me before. With all those factors I was going in, that's why Switzerland is number one. As cliche as it is, as much as you want to say, oh my god, he's like the rest, Switzerland is up there for a reason. And that's why there's so many taxes.
Hello, I like money.
But if you like this video, give it a like. And if you're kind of feeling good about my videos and you want to keep watching, well, there's a little button called the subscribe button you could also put out that tells you whenever I put out more new videos. Other than that, hope to see you in the next one. Bye! Yoda, come here! Say bye! Say bye, you numbnuts! Say bye! Bye!